You want to? Okay. We have 10 already. Okay, we can't show no fangin. You want to just tell the guy doing the music that he should we're on live. Okay. Chaim, tell me when you're ready to start. You ready to start? Okay, so before I start again, if you just joined us, tonight is a special evening. We're not going to be doing it any other week that I know of, at least. There's going to be a Rabbi Groner and his Leil Shabbos, and the music and everything's going to be over there. Here's the story. Zera Shimshon is going to finish at 5 to 9, then we're going to start Maral. Okay, we're going to start Maral. We're not doing Ma'ariv tonight. What's your name? Yehuda Lowy. So we're going to do the Maral Shiur from 9 to 9:15.
Oh, I have the Maral here.
What's that?
Yehuda Lowy.
He's the Maral. There you go, Yehuda Lowy. This is the Maral Alain. So we do the Maral till 9:15. So if the Olam comes in, okay. Okay, let's go. Good evening, Marav Rabbi. Tonight's Zera Shimshon Shiur is sponsored by Reb David Metzger, Lila Nishmas Esther Bas Avram, whose yard side is on Yud Tes Sivan, and for the Zivug Nochen of Rivka Tziro Bas Edel Menucha, and Rivka Rikkel Bas Bat Sheva. The Baruch Shem Zol Hav B'Schus Reb Shimshon Chaim Ben Menachem Echol, B'Schus HaYogan Aleinu. We should have Yeshua's brachas for everybody, everyone who needs it. Okay, tonight's Zera Shimshon is on page Kufayin Gimel. It's Dalid, the sugya of Eldad Umeidad and the Shivim Zikanim. If we can just get a hold of a chumash, please, a regular chumash. Thank you so much. The Torah Kedosha tells us that Moshe Rabbeinu was overwhelmed. He was overwhelmed with the complaints of Klal Yisrael. And Moshe Rabbeinu said to the Eibishter, did I give birth to these children, to all of Klal Yisrael, and meine Kinder, I have to carry them around. I need help. The Eibishter said, fine, take Shivim, you'll take Shivim Zikanim, and I'll take some of the Ruach that's by you and we'll put it onto them. The Torah Kedosha says that Moshe Rabbeinu took 72 ptakim, pieces of paper. 72 because for each shevet, 6 times 12 is 72, of which 70 out of the 72 would become the Shivim Zikanim, and whoever the 2 were not chosen would be left out. How did Moshe Rabbeinu choose? He didn't. Moshe Rabbeinu did not choose. It's the Eibishter, a Geiro. He wrote 70 ptakim of Zokein, 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 Zokein. And then he left 2 blank. And then he went and told the Olam, come and take. And each person went and took, and what's that? Whoever took the empty one. Eldad Umeidad Vitzmashman, the Gemara said, didn't even want to go ahead and collect. They said, we're not royu. I don't know why Moshe chose us. They had tremendous anivus. And Eldad Umeidad didn't even want to go ahead and pick. Behema Nisharim, they didn't even pick. So all the 70 that picked, all got Zokains. What happened? Eldad Umeidad got Nevuah, even though they weren't part of the Shivim Zikanim. And not only did they get Nevuah, but they got a nevuah directly from the Eibishter, not like the other Shivim, that was Vayotzal, that came off, that was siphoned off of Moshe. Do you know what they said? There's 3 opinions in the Gemara. One opinion said, Moshe meis v'Yehoshua machnas. One opinion was that Moshe Rabbeinu would not take Klal Yisrael into Eretz Yisrael. Another opinion is they were misnaba on Gog uMagog, about the Milchamas Gog uMagog. Tonight in the Maharal Shiur, right following the Zera Shimshon, we're going to talk about that. Why Vos Epis of Al Zachen now by the Shivim Zikanim is the time over here to be misnaba about Gog uMagog. The Zera Shimshon also discusses it. Maharal discusses that we're going to spend in the Maharal Shiur. But Lama Zembos, that's your little background. Zog the Zera Shimshon quoting the Gemara. Vayitz in Sanhedrin Daf Yud Zayin Amid Aleph. Vayisharu Shnei Anoshim B'Machna Yeshayim B'Kafei Nesharim. They were left nishtayru. They were left over because of those ptakim, which means to say they weren't part of it. Asfuli shivim ish meziknei so shteit in the Torah v'yem Moshe Ketzad asked, what should I do? Hevi ayin beis petakim. He brought 72 pieces. V'kosav al shivim zokein v'shtayim hiniach chalak. Bolam v'nosam b'kapi. Mixed them up, put them into a box, and said to every one of the 72, come and take. Reb Shimon Omer b'machna nishtar. They stayed in the mach. They didn't even go in. Yesh makshim lama la Moshe lichtav shem ptakim. The first kasha, says the Zera Shimshon, is a practical question. Why did Moshe Rabbeinu work so hard? You have to make a discrepancy between 70 and 2. You write 70 zokein and 2 empty. How about leaving 70 blank and write 2 X? And then if you got the X, you're not in. Zeir gring, right? Much takes less time. More efficient. No? Fregt, yesh makshim. Lama loy l'Moshe lichtav al shivim ptakim. Hay loy l'aniach shivim chalak. Leave over 70 blank. Give him a sefer. Leave over 70 blank. V'shtayim ksuvim. 2 of them are written. You have to work so hard. I don't know if he had a secretary. You know, he had to go stripe it all himself. If that's what's bothering you, that's a gornish shver. Do you know why? This was through the Shechina. This was who the Eibishter chose, not Moshe Rabbeinu. So therefore, Livchain means to say, do you deserve to be a zokein? Do you deserve to be part of the Sanhedrin? Do you deserve that role of zokein? So then you need to be awarded a petek that says zaken, a tu'udah. It's graduation. You need to get that tu'udah that says you're a zoken. They would lighten up. The Gemara says that when they went to ask if they should go fight against Binyamin, Klal Yisrael didn't ask the right questions. They said, should we go to war? But they didn't ask if they're going to be minatseach. They didn't ask if they're going to win. And when they went to war, they lost. They lost the first 2 times. And then on the 3rd time, then the Navi said to them, you're not asking if you're going to win. You have to ask that question too. So the point is that the bout, just like you see in the Urim V'Tubim, Medav Ken and Freigen, you have to know how to ask. When you go to a Rebbe or you go to a Rav, you want to ask a Shaila. You have to know, sometimes you have to prepare. What is it you want to ask? Uvos Freigste. What's your kasha? Sometimes Sheilas Chacham Chatzi Tshuva. The Shaila itself is sometimes half of the answer already. Al Kopanim, the fact that they were going to the Urim V'Tumim, and this was like an Urim V'Tumim. So Memela, they needed the answer. Are you a Zoken or not? So you had to have it. That's one thing. V'oid, de be'inyan sha'goyrel atzma yoymer Zoken v'yigzar v'yamshich ha'kedusha. The kedusha through the kloibim, through being chosen. Kemoi shematzinu begoyrel shachalukas haaretz. V'chein hashnei seirim shel Yom Kippur. One says la Hashem, one says la Azazel. Maybe just have one written la Hashem. And the other one be la Azazel. Name. One is la Hashem. One goes to the Eibishter. The other one is Lazozel. Says the Zera Shimshon, Zeh Hamshich Kedusha, V'zeh Lahachniya Haklipa. By the fact that it says, and Avegishtel, that this is Lazozel, it has the power of bringing, of negating the Chelek Hara. So these words and the process was not just a process, let me figure out who's in and who's out. The process itself created the Kedusha and empowered them. So I have no kasha, says the Zera Shimshon, although others asked why Moshe Rabbeinu did it that way, ich hab nicht kan kasha. Aber was ja, here the Zera Shimshon asks a bomba of a kasha. Elo I kasha ha kasha. This is a question. Why did he need to get 6 people from each shevet? Hoya tzorech levarer shivim zkenim hayoyseroyim mikol Yisrael. The top people for the job. The better you are. What happens if you've got 10 amazing Talmidei Chachamim from Shevet Yehuda, from Shevet Yisachar? Only 6 of them are going to get in. The best person I get, what is it? Democrats. You have to make sure that all minorities get. Jeder darf kriegen. Was dit sich du? Cholila.
70 nations.
70 nations. Bald.
Wow.
You're good, Chaim. The fact is, Zera Shimshon, vos epis. What do you have to have? Every equal representation. Ma pitom. Let the best person get the job. And if you have 35 people from Shevet Yisachar and they're the best and they're the Yoidei Bina, so that most of them are not going to get the job because why? Because we all were born in the same family. Chaval. Dos fragt the Zera Shimshon. Why isn't the best person getting the job? Fragt the Zera Shimshon. Hayaloi levar hashivim skenim hayoyseru mikol Yisrael. Yeah, he's a shevet Shia. But some Afkamina, what do I care which shevet it comes from? The Kemoshe Yanohagim b'minus Sanhedrin. The Kemoshe b'Mitzrayim hayashivim zekenim. Kemoshe Kosev b'Chayai. Like Rabbeinu Machai says, Shema oilam loy nifsek minyan zeh Yisrael. There was always 70. Keneged hashivim nefesh yordul Mitzrayim. Says that there was always 70 from the day that Klal Yisrael went into Mitzrayim. B'shivim nefesh yordu avaysecha. There always was that number of 70, and you think that the 70 became 600,000, the 70 went away? No. Zogt, I'm reading you a little bit from the Beinu B'chaye. Ki afa bishe isker ato asvali, even though it says gather now, fragt the Rabbeinu B'chaye, what happened to the Zekanim that were at Har Sinai? There were Shivim Zekanim there. What happened to them? Zogt Rabbeinu B'chaye, Rashi quotes it, in the beginning of the Parsha, all those Shivim Zekanim were nifter. This Parsha, B'Taveira, Klal Yisrael had a lapse of time of no Shivim Zekanim. Rashi brings it down. These were the Atzile B'nei Yisrael Le'sholchu Yodam. At Har Sinai, they looked where they were not supposed to. Vayochlu Vayishtu. And the Eibishter was going to pay them back at Har Sinai, but he didn't want to ruin Matan Torah. Now, when Klal Yisrael was being punished for being Balei Taiva, now they were taken away. So Moshe Rabbeinu was left mamish by himself during this tkufa. So Moshe Rabbeinu said, how am I supposed to do this? So the Eibishter said, esfuli bring noch. Now we're going to do a replacement of the 70. And now you're going to take them from the from all the tribes. Those was the flag.
Sorry, I love him. Sorry, noise. Those different people.
Kanire? Yes. That's a what's the getracht bis heint?
So it wasn't so long.
Right, so what did you think till now, before I came along? Moshe Rabbeinu said that in the Torah a long time ago, right? And what happened to the Sorry Chamishim, Sorry Meir, Sorry Alafim? Well, what did I say that made you ask this question?
He said he was alone.
Moshe Rabbeinu zokt us. How am I echan esa levadi? How am I supposed to do this? So why is he alone? I'm saying, so what did you learn till tonight? You never had a good, okay, whatever you learned till now, learn weiter. Das steht doch. Moshe Rabbeinu advised us that they had their group, right? But the carry Klal Yisrael, that people are balei achrayis, that could be equal to Moshe Rabbeinu, that they didn't have.
So those first set of Canaan were also 6 from each other?
No, that's what the Rabbeinu B'chaya says. The beginning of the 70 were not part of it. That's what the Zera Shimshon says. Zog the Zera Shimshon, the beginning was from anyone. But now that he replaced them, those shivim were not the shivim of the tribes. Those were shivim ziknei. These shivim, Rashi brings down, they were the people who were the shaitrim, who got hit when Klal Yisrael wasn't finishing their job. They got klep for Klal Yisrael. Now they were the ones to, if they were there for the tzibur lechatchila, they were there now for Klal Yisrael as the shivim. Aber, like you see in the Lashon of the Zera Shimshon, Shema Olam Lo Nifsik Minyan Zeh Yisrael. The minyan was always 70. Keneged Shivim Nefesh Yardim Mitzrayim. Bout. Be'ez Hashem, we'll talk about that a little bit more. V'oid yesh ledaktik. So number one is that this number was a number that was very exact. Frekt the Zera Shimshon. V'oid yesh ledaktik. The ledas yesh oimim k'may shepirish ha're'im. The ka'amar kama tzadikim hayu sham. There was Moshe, Aaron, Yeshua, Eldad, Meidad, v'shivim zikenim. Mashma she'eldad u'meidad haya oisam she'olam biyadam petek halak. So Eldad and Meidad were l'chayra the two outsiders. But Eldad and Meidad ended up getting nevuah eventually. So at the end, all 72 were Nevi'im. All 72. So why say Asfuli Shivim if at the end you give it to all 72? So why Shivim? At the end, what the Gairo did? At the end, everybody became Nevi'im as well. What was so special about them? I want to make this point very, very clear. The Shivim Zikenim of Moshe Rabbeinu were got the Nevuah siphoned off from Moshe Rabbeinu. It wasn't their own independent connection to the Eibishter. However, Eldad u'Meidad, in lieu of Moshe Rabbeinu's Nevuah, they got a direct connection. Eldad u'Meidad misnabim b'machna, and that's why Chazal say they could say Moshe Meis. A person who gets nevuah from Moshe Rabbeinu kenish zog Moshe Meis. Someone who gets the nevuah outside of Moshe Rabbeinu, and I'm not sure if there was since Kabbalah Torah, if there was anybody getting nevuah outside of Moshe Rabbeinu azovidem. But here, Moshe's nevuah is spreading out to all of the 70. And Eldad u'Meidad are saying misnabim b'machna. Vozogin say, like we said, other Moshe Meis, that's what we're going to talk about now, or Goygu Magog, that we're going to talk about in the Maharal Shir, Be'ez Hashem at 9 o'clock. Other Moshe Meis, other Goygu Magog. Zog the Zera Shimshon. But if they're all going to be Nevi'im, so what's the pshat that you have to claim 70? Why do we divide them? Where's Chaim? He said it very good. The mispar choshev v'nichbad k'may she'amar Ramban. Shivim umois, 70 nations, 70 sorim around the Kisei HaKavod, Shivim malachim connect saviv Kisei HaKavod, and each one represents the 7 days of the week. V'heim sheva kol echad kolul me'eser. Shuhu klolis kol hakoyches al yoinim. All 70 shivim umais sheva yomim. Each one is a kaima shleim of like 10 spheres, all 10, which represent the connection, the koiches, the different koiches of all of koiches achayim that the Eibishter gave out. Shivim, like shivim panim la Torah. There's 70 different ways that the Torah could be learned. Le'umas zeh, there's 70 different languages which represent 70 different expressions of the neshama. Ubeshivim nefesh yardu Mitzrayim keneged shivim sarim. For the 70 nations of the world, there were 70 people who went into Mitzrayim, asher sholtu b'Yisrael bizman hagolus, which Klal Yisrael would find themselves in their golus. So what's Taka the Pshat in 70? So we said over back then from the Maharal, I wrote it down over here, that the 70 people were the koyach, that no matter where Klal Yisrael would go, there would be a koyach kineged. So Klal Yisrael with the shivim nefesh, each nation represented a separate culture, a different appreciation of life, with its unique nisoyin, unique challenge, so that anybody who takes up residence in that country has to struggle to keep his or her own identity. Keneged those shivim umais, HaKadosh Baruch Hu made 70 people go into Golus, and each one was like a vaccine, keneged each one of those cultures, so that they would always be im Yaakov, so they would never separate from Yaakov Avinu. Keneged all the, when Klal Yisrael went into Golus, the first time as a nation, they went in Shivim Nefesh with Yaakov Avinu. He was 71. This way they would be connected to Yaakov no matter which Golus or which type of culture they would go through, they're always tzigestelt. That's the Shivim.
So passing the Nisayan was the power.
The passing the Nisayan for every Yid who's in America, who's in France, who's in Spain, who's in any culture, it's connecting yourself to the Shayrish of one of those Shivim Nefesh that connected to Yaakov Avinu. Zag v'av mispar Yud Beis Shvatim. Heim keneged Yud Beis Mazolos, as we've learned. Yud Beis Tzirufei Hashem HaMeyuchad. The 12 different ways, as I've showed you, we looked in the Siddur by Musaf of Rosh Chodesh. There are 12 different ways of writing Yud Kei Vav Kei, which is keneged the 12 months, which is keneged the 12 Shvatim. Kol Eila Shiftei Yisrael Shneim Aser Dugmas Yud Beis Tzinoiris. These are the pipes. This is a Kabbalah de Kazach, but this is the way the Rebbeinu Shem brings the Shefa to the world. V'zehu ish asher ki berchosei beirach oisam. Moshe Rabbeinu gave a bracha to every single one of them. Breichas oloshen sinor shel mala. Each shevet has his own pipe of how he brings down his koiches, and that's what Yaakov gave him the bracha. Kein beirach oisam lamata. Mishum hachi ato. Therefore, since these 12 tribes, these 12 shvatim, each one has its own sinar, each one has to be represented appropriately with the maximum amount of hashpah. So I can't just take, says Moshe Rabbeinu, the best of all of Klal Yisrael, because I have to make sure that it's aligned with all the koiches in Shamayim that have to come down to Klal Yisrael in this place at this time and going in the future. The 70 nefesh that went out of Mitzrayim, says Rabbeinu Bechai, says the Zera Shimshon, was constantly there to connect Klal Yisrael to the Eibishter. The Lashon of Shivim, the number Shivim, you think that when they became 600,000, so it was irrelevant. Name! The Shivim remains in Klal Yisrael shtendik. The Shivim Zikanim, or the Shivim Sanhedrin plus 1, which was the tiebreakers, we'll soon see who that was, the Roish, the Moshe Rabbeinu, the one who's mashpia to all of them, but the Shivim are always and shtendik connected to the Eibishter. They're always connected. Now that the Rebbeinu Shem is going to siphon off the nevuah from Moshe Rabbeinu, each one of the Yud Beis Shvatim should get his own hashpah. Each one had 12 stones, 6 letters. Soid ayin beis, birugam ken ayin beis. He took 72. So why isn't there 72 zikanim? The Torah says the Zera Shimshon. Shesoid hashanhedrin hu shivim mispar choshev, but Moshe is al gabehem. So I need 70, and 71 is Moshe Rabbeinu, and 72 is the Eibishter. The Shivim Zikanim were Keneged the Shivim Umos. Eldad and Meidad, their position was Kaviyachol Keneged Moshe and the Shechina. And there's a tremendous remez, says the Zera Shimshon, in the name Eldad and Meidad. They have in common the names Dalid, the letters Dalid, which is a dad, a breast. That's mashpia. What other letters do they have? Eldad, Aleph, Lamed, Kel, and Meidad, Yud Mem. Says the Zera Shimshon, they had 5 things that everybody else didn't get. Look on page Kuf Ayin Hey. Look on page Kuf Ayin Hey. This is the page right the other page, right there. It says, Ve'elu shnaim zochu lechamish tedvarim yosem hashivim zikanim. With 5 things they had that the others didn't have. Like it says in the Yalkut, what were these 5 things? Zikanim loy nisnabu elo lemochar vehem nisnabed losid liyos. Zikanim only did one nevuah for tomorrow, they did for the future. Zikanim loy nisparshu shemus, we don't know who they are. We know who they are. Eldad umeidad. Elu nispar. Zikanim poskenu vosam, they stopped. Elu loy poskenu vosam. Zikanim oisin vosam mishel Moshe. Aval elu mishel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's number 4. And finally, Zikanim loy nichnesu la'aretz, ve'elu nichnesu la'aretz. They went into Eretz Yisrael. Aleph Lamed, Yud Mem, and 5 is Elokim. That's the name Hashem. The 5 is what makes them unique. 5, the 5 nekudas, which is the letter Hey. Says that's not me. Look at the bottom. Eldad umeidad. Ki shem elikim nechlak shnei chalokim. It gets even better, Rabbi Isai. What's the name of judges? Elokim. Or you could say it's Chayil, Elohim. Ad Elohim Yaved Shneim. Right? The Rabbeinu Shalom empowered that everyone who has a shaila should be able to come kaviyachol to the Eibishter as close as he can get to ask a shaila. What do? You go to Sanhedrin. Elikim nitzav ba'ad askel. The Rabbeinu Shalom is there. The Rabbeinu Shalom is mischaber. But there's so many different types of people. There are 70 Zikanim and 70 Sanhedrin keneged every parts of every nation. So that every single person and every culture and every walk of life is represented in Sanhedrin. So that it has the full spectrum of the Tzuras HaAdam. All people are unified or represented in the Shivim of the Zikanim. So all 70 nations are in the Shivim of the Partsufim of the different people who are in the Sanhedrin. Then you have you have the head of the Sanhedrin. And then with that you connect to the Eibishter. That's the Ayin Beis. Zokt the Zera Shimshon. Here is what you have in Eldad umeidad. You have Eldad and Meidad who represent the head Moshe Rabbeinu because they're not getting the nevuah from Moshe. They're in lieu of Moshe. So they're one darga higher. And who does Moshe Rabbeinu collect to? Kaviyachol, to the Eibishter, right? To the Shechina that's Shari. Zok the Zera Shimshon, Alpi Dari HaKodesh. Eldad and Meidad represent those two dadim that are mamshech the shefa from above down to this world. Aleph Lamed, Yud Mem, with the 5 things that they have that they don't have is the Shem Elokim. That's Elokim Nitzav Ba'adas Kel. On the 70 people that are in the Sanhedrin, you have 2 that are above. That was Eldad Umeidad. The Tamon, 2 on one side, Yenikas HaChesed, Mem Yud Mismol, Yenikas HaSmoil, Ve'he Lekim Be'emtza, Soid Leiv. And by the Leiv, that's where the Gemara in Bracha says that when a Tinnik is Yoinik Mishdei Imoy, that's where he gets Binas HaLeiv, the Gemara in Bracha stuff Yud. So these 2 Dods, Eldad and Meidad, were the ones who were being mainik to Klal Yisrael from above the darga of where these shivim were coming from. They're not nichlal in those shivim, zok the Zera Shimshon. V'oid b'kisar reshoit sinayris l'hamshich shefa u'mishum hochi nikra b'shem dod kimin shnei dadim shebe'isha yamin u'smoil. And how do you decide when you have a yamin and a smoil? So you have that leiv hamavin, you have the hey be'emtza, that's machriya. And that's what these people were. And that's what Eldad Umeidad.
So that's why they didn't need a zaken ticket?
That's why they didn't need a zaken. That's why they were a petek. Oh, that's why they were above. They came from a darga noch hecher from the zakenim. Their darga wasn't even higher. They were glat. Do you know why? Because they were so mashpil themselves. That's who they were. So therefore, bidafka all 72. But the 70 came from Moshe. The extra 2, says the Zera Shimshon, came from Eldad Umeidad. And those Tafman wissen that always Klal Yisrael has that hamshacha of kedusha from above. We always have that hamshacha. Like we saw in the Bein B'chaya, the 70 never stops. The 70 never stops. There's always that koyach to be miskasher to a higher darga. And we all are responsible for bringing shefa down into this world. At kam which mizdabek. As we said in our introduction, there were 2 things they said. Number 1, they said, Moshe Meis. Avad, it's very understandable. Moshe Meis v'Yeshua Machnes, because they were a connection kaviyachol to the Eibishter. When Moshe Rabbeinu says, Ani lo yochol, zok the Eibishter through Eldad Umeidad al tedag, yesh Yoshua. There are other people that bring in. Even Moshe, you're Ish Elikim, but even when you say du ken snish, ich ken noch, I can make sure that Klal Yisrael will go weiter. That's one nevuah. The other nevuah is Goy Magog. So as we said in our introduction, we're going to finish Zera Shimshon now. Zogan HaKadosh. Ma'ariv, the people will daven. If they want to daven, they can daven out there. We're going to start the Maral Shir in 3 minutes because we have to make way for the Leil Shabbos. Rav Chananya ben Akasham Ratzah Kadosh Baruch Hu Lezakis Es Yisrael Leficha Chebolim Torah Mitzvahs. Shenemar Adonai Chofetz Laman Tzidkoi Yagdil Toiva V'Yagdil. Rina Sora, Mas Michal Aaron, Skadabis, Shemei Abo, Balmont Deber, Carbon Sheet, Chayet Carbon Nechan, Chayet Chobes, Israel, Baba, Love is Man, Karev, and Ruamen. Shmei, Rabba, Bora, Maya, Yispora. Amistad, Yisala, Yisala, Shmei, Chudshah, Bericho, Leila, Mekabel, Chasa, Beshua, Sakesh, Bechasa, Nechamasa, Dami, Rabba, and Ruamen. Yisrael, Rabba, Yeah, called them a day. Some come on, let's give I said, because I'm side by side. Yeah, I'm some rabbi. Because of Rahman. Chayin Arichim, Zayin Rabichai. When I'm going to Mishmai Ba'ado, Imruamei. Yehei Shom Rabbi Mishmai, Chankom Maleinu. Yisrael B'Imruamei. Oysa Shom B'Imruamei. Yashom Maleinu Ba'ako. Yisrael B'Imruamei. Yes, I'll take 2 questions.
Why was it? Can you save it again?
Because each one had their own root case, both cases their own scenario. Each one had to come from that.
Eldad Umeidad were like a ayin, like Moshe and Hashem.
Shkar too. Neshama shel haben an aliyah. Shkar for the sponsor. Where'd you put everything?
Right in back. You can't get easier than that. Did I ever tell you how much I love you, Rabbi?
I love you too. Good job.
It gets more and more every week, Rabbi. That's the best thing that you do. Okay, starting is running away.
It's all good. It's all good. It's all good.
Moshe and Hashem.
Yes.
There was Shivim from all the Shivim, and then there was Eldad Umeidad. Moshe was living.
I thought Moshe was living, but their nevuah was already chal. Their nevuah was already chal, even though Moshe is living. Das Gufa. Das Gufa.
So they're like in place of Moshe.
That's right.
One was in place of Moshe.
One of the places of Shechina,
Which one died?
Das steht nicht. Das steht nicht. This starts at 9:15. I'm going to say a 15-minute Maral Shiur now. That's the shara. You can go. Yeah, this is not the good food. I mean, this is good food too.
Good. There's more food coming.
More good food coming. This is good. Oh, they really are? Okay, Baruch Hashem. What's going on? Why are they attacking them? Oh, really?
Yeah, he ran just now.
Scientists.
He's going to shut it off.
Go get him out.
Knock him out. Okay.
No joke. So I'm not getting out.
Okay, here's
Not so fast.
yes. This.
You're still live, by the way. It wasn't shut off.
Wasn't shut off.
They're both live.
You want to shut it off and start it again like this because maybe it's better.
Yeah?
Because he's going to shut it
Let's
off.
get the heck out of here.
Okay.
Enough. Speak.
Yalla, speak.
Okay.
All right.